you're here. Tonight we're going to be sharing with you some ways that we can monitor student progress, plus some special tips. So we'll be looking at the quick poll feature, live presenter, and then the portfolio part of Navigator, as well as showing you how to aggregate data using quick polls.
Thanks, Ray. And Jeff is going to discuss the expected outcomes for tonight.
Looks like Jeff just dropped off the phone.
So maybe Jeff won't discuss our expected outcomes for tonight. Ray, would you mind doing that?
Sure. So we're going to be using the Nspire Navigator System as a way to aggregate data. We'll show you how to manage your students' grades within the Navigator software using a portfolio feature. We'll create different question techniques that can be made using pre-made templates within Navigator. And as always, we'll let you know how to stay in touch with us via social media and upcoming events as well.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Sure.
Jeff, are you good to go?
We are good to go.
Great. So real quick, sorry. Now that Jeff is sharing his desktop, the Q&A window and the chat window, you can find those at the very top of your screen. You'll see like a green tab, and if you mouse over that green tab, you'll be able to find the chat window and the Q&A window there. So you can give us feedback on pacing, or if you have any questions, we can answer those questions live. So please feel free to use those two features. Thanks a lot, Jeff. It's all yours.
Sure. So I've got a small class of students here. I think I had this from a parent night. And I'm going to go ahead and start a new document and just insert a question here. And I'm going to go to one of these questions. So we teased you last time saying we're going to show you how to aggregate data. And we're going to show you two different ways. The first way I'm going to show you is kind of a built-in feature. And then Ray is going to show you kind of the more advanced technique. And so you can either use one of these two for the built-in feature, either the drop points or the numerical input. So I'm going to use numerical input. And the question I'm going to ask is type some ordered pairs where the x value is twice the y value. And see, if you go over here in the Documents toolbox, the document tools, this is where you really customize your question. And so I can say maybe a couple more points here if I want to. I could include a graph preview. For this one, I'm not going to. I'm just going to have them type in ordered pairs, and hopefully they can just answer the question just from the information given. So I'm going to start this poll. So it takes a second, and it'll come to all of my handhelds. And I'm going to take a screenshot. So you can go to the camera icon here, go to Capture Class. And Ray, I always check this logged in only, typically just in case someone who's not logged in, I don't want to show their screenshot.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Do you do that too?
Yeah, I do that from time to time, definitely. So okay. Screenshots are proud.
Yeah. And I'm going to show some of these students as I enter some of their information here. So maybe 2, and you can hit Tab and 1. And Tab gets you the next screen, and then 4 and 2. Maybe say this student's really going here in 3 and 1.5.
So you're using Live Presenter right now, right, to show us one of the actual handhelds that you're
I am. That's right. So this is in real time, and you can actually, the student can actually go up here to, one way they can submit, they can go up here to Quick Poll, and then hit the submit, hit the little arrow there, and you can submit that way. So their answer has been submitted. I'm going to go to the next student and type in their responses. And -1. And 0, 0. And another way to is to hit the dock key. You can see the red arrow right there. They hit the dock key and they can hit submit there. I think most of my students typically use that method when they're doing this. And I'm going to just enter one more student's information. I'm not going to show you. I'm just going to enter their information. And
the anticipation is building.
Okay. So I'm going to see what's been entered here. So that's Live Presenter. Going back to Navigator. So I can click here. I'm in the Review tab. I'm going to click down here and see what's been entered. So there's been 9 points that have been entered. And I'm going to, if I right-click here, I can individualize students' responses. That's one thing that's kind of helpful to do. You can see that one student chose these 3 points right here, another student chose these, and this third student chose these points right out here. Another way, other than right-clicking, is to get some of the graph tools right over here, and we can individualize student responses there as well. In this case, it kind of makes sense for me to maybe add a teacher equation to check their work, and so if I put in something like 1/2 x, it should go through every point that's correct. I could have marked correct points to begin with if I wanted to, but this is just another way I could have shown that. Of course, if I hover over it, it'll show me which student did each particular thing. And you can see that one student is just getting it a little bit off and not doing it quite right. But you can see that the data has been aggregated on one graph screen here. I could also show it if I wanted to as a whole list of points. I could mark some of those points correct if I wanted to, mark them incorrect if I wanted to.
And you're right-clicking on those to do that?
I right-click.
Okay.
And so if I wanted to mark that correct, I would mark it there. Of course, that point was not correct there. The third way to look at this, these icons down in the bottom right, is to show this type of response, and it shows you the frequency of each answer there. In this case, the graph is really probably the best way to look at all the data. And I like that it aggregates it all in one page, so you can get points and look at it in a math classroom, and it's kind of built in that it aggregates the data. The drawback is, and I think the thing that Ray's going to show later on is, I'm not able to send this back to the students, so I can't send them all the data that was sent in. And there are certain cases in math class or science class where you may really consider it doing that. Just to show you one other thing that I could have done, when I set up this question originally, I had the option down here of putting in a correct answer. And so I could have put in 2, 1 as a correct answer, and then I could add points and put in more correct answers. Now, in this case, there would be an infinite number of points that I would have to type to get all the correct answers. And so you may just consider putting in some points there. But that's something you can do to start out the question there. But that's basically the tool of automatically aggregating your data. I think let's go back to this class capture here. And so we can look at this in a couple different views here. If you click this icon on the right, I think the tiled view is a very nice view. You can make it smaller or bigger depending on how many students are in your class. I think this is a nice size to see what the students are saying. It can also show their names or not show their names. And so then if you can highlight one, and then you could always click Make Presenter if you want them to be presenter. But in this case, I think there's a number of different uses that you may use this for. For example, I don't know, Ray, in your class, if your students ever have trouble typing in something somewhat complicated like this. This is a basic exponential equation. And believe it or not, I did this one in my class, and the students did not type this in all correctly. It's got a couple funny things here. It's got 1 plus a fraction there, and it's got n and t. It looks like n times t. Some people misunderstood that. And so if we look at, we can actually look and see what they did. So I'm going to show you their scratch pads, because I think I did this. And let me just stop that quick poll. Here we go. I'm going to show you the scratch pad for the students. And so I'm going to refresh, and you can see all their screens now. Now, some of these students typed it in correctly. In fact, this student is exactly right. 116.054 is correct. This student is also right, and this student is also right. Ray, do you ever use this feature where you can move the screens around? Have you used that before?
Yeah, and put them in different groups, basically.
Sure. So you can kind of organize them if you'd like to, and then we have the 3 problem screens right down here. And sometimes I think it's hard to pick out where the mistake is. I mean, this one looks similar, but you can see the 1 plus, and this is the 1 somehow made it to the numerator there. Same thing here. This one was a little tougher for the students to figure out. I don't know if you can catch the error here. Obviously, the answer doesn't look right. Put $100 in the bank, and then a few years later, you got $1,000. That seems like a pretty good deal. But students in my class actually put a time sign. They didn't put a times on here. They started typing this, and they typed in 100, and then instead of putting to the power of 2 times 5, they just put 2 times 5 after the parentheses. And so it almost looks like it's elevated, but it's really not up there to where the exponent should be. And so you can catch those kinds of mistakes. And the thing I really like about this type of thing is I'll ask them, I'll say, okay, what's the mistake on this screen? I can hide their names. Again, I don't have to embarrass the students. Although oftentimes do you find, Ray, that the students who actually make the mistake will sometimes admit to it in your class when they see it up there?
Yeah, I think so. When you have a good rapport with the students, sure.
Yeah. And so you can show this, and it's good cognitive for them, because oftentimes I find that when one student makes this mistake right here, there may be 2 or 3 others in the same class that made that same mistake. And so, yes, I could have just walked around the class and caught this mistake and helped them out, but now they're catching their own mistakes. They're correcting each other. It's peer review. And for me, it's correcting future mistakes. It's helping more people to get the problem right. And anytime you can do that, that's a great way to monitor the class. Another thing about monitoring the class, and it has to do, I think, with this live presenter, is it helps you to go at a pace. I think it's so hard in a classroom to go at the correct pace. Sometimes I'll go too fast or too slow. And so if you put a student in charge, one thing you can do is you can just say, okay, I'm going to make you presenter. And then that student is in charge of the class. And so every time they type something, then they are the ones that are interacting and leading the class. And so they'll go at the pace that they can go at without kind of losing everyone else in the process. And so I love it. My favorite use for live presenter is to catch mistakes, have students catch each other's pace. Another thing that I'll do is maybe I've sent them an activity. This is the domain and range activity. So I'll stop as presenter for a second, and I'll refresh the screens. And some of these students are on different parts of this activity. Let me see. And I'll get them off of the, and so I've got this activity here. They're all on different parts of this activity here. And so you can kind of gauge where the students are, if they're working in pairs or if they're working, this student, has not even started the document. It's just kind of open. I sent it to them, and they just are sitting there on the very first page. Maybe they're looking on with another student. Another student here is on page 4.2. So I can kind of gauge on how fast students are going when they're doing group work. I can make sure students are on task. Maybe you have some students in your class who you want them to be doing something on their handheld, and they're doing something else. And so this is a great way to just kind of look at the class as a whole, and then you can also make them live presenter at any time. Another interesting, we're just trying to get you to think, how could you use this tool? Because the Navigator tool is just so powerful in the classroom. It makes us into better teachers. We have more access to more information, and we can better monitor our students. And so even at times during, say, a quiz or test, if maybe I've got someone who is taking a test, and maybe you told your students that they're not allowed to use the nsolve command or the solve command. And so you can actually monitor and see what they're using to solve problems when they're taking a quiz or test, because they could be logged in the Navigator. And so just another way to kind of make sure they're on task, doing what you instructed them to do. Do you ever use that for a quiz or test in your class, Ray?
Yeah, actually, at the end of the year, I had students doing a test, and I noticed I was just randomly kind of looking at screens. I know, kind of big brotherish, but on the other hand, we're there to help them, right? So I noticed one student was off by one question, and he was putting all his answers in, but off by one number. And so I went over there and said, hey, I noticed you did this. You might want to fix this. And he was really grateful for that. So.
And did he think you were like a superhuman, that you knew what was happening?
Of course, of course. Hey,
I love
you know, we actually now really have eyes in the back of our head with this navigation.
That's right. That's right. I'm going to show you another feature, which is on the quick poll, which I really like, this new feature here. So if I have a quick poll, I start my class oftentimes with a PSAT question. And so if I go to Start Poll, of course it's sent out to all the handhelds. This goes from the Document tab automatically to the Review tab. And if you're in this center icon, the Page Sorter view, you can go down here and see what's happening with students who are answering this question. I oftentimes will freeze my monitor so they can't see that I'm looking at them. And then, but if you go to this view here, you can actually see what each student has answered. And so as the students answer, you can see which student has answered what. And this is very valuable because one of my favorite features here is the timestamp. And so I'll figure out, well, when did, let's see, and you can kind of move these columns over so you can see it a little better. I always like to see the seconds here. So you can see 720.41. If I click this again, 720.18. So parent C was the very quickest to respond to my quick poll question. And that can be important. You might say, well, why would that be important? And you could use that a couple different ways in your class. If, you know, it's very motivating. If one of your goals is to get be the quickest person to answer the correct answer, that can be very nice. One thing I find is sometimes a student will answer a PSAT question like 30 seconds or 45 seconds before everybody else does. And so what you can do is you can ask that question, how did you answer the question so quickly? And they may have a shortcut they used and a method that might have been faster than another student or responded. So this is automatically, this is in the new 3.2 operating system, that the timestamp automatically shows up when you click to the student's icon here. And so I really like having access to the timestamp. If you ever used Navigator in the 84 system, it also had the timestamp in there. It's just a little easier to access now. There's a couple things.
If any of them like to know who's first.
Oh, they love to know who's first, don't they? We also said that we would show you just a couple of really neat things. And so they're kind of hidden up here. It's hard to find, but if you go to Tools and Quick Poll Options, there's two options here that you may at times want to think about doing. And so you can click Allow Resubmit. And if you click Allow Resubmit, then when I send this poll, what's going to happen is, you know, I can submit. So let me go to this view. So parent A, let me make this student presenter, is going to go doc, and you can see right here it says submit. And so he's going to go ahead and submit his answer. And then if you go back to home, if I had clicked Allow Resubmit, let me see what happened here. Let me go back to my thing. Do you know what I think I did? Let's see. It was on Allow Resubmit, and I clicked it, and so it actually clicked off of Allow Resubmit. Oh. Now if I go to Allow Resubmit, it is now clicked. So I'm going to leave it clicked and restart this poll. because I want you to see the difference between what happens here for the student's point of view. So I'm going to make the student presenter, hit Doc, Submit, and now let's say they change their mind. So you notice the question didn't go away when they hit Submit, and usually the question goes away. But the question is still there. They can now press B, hit Doc, and it says Resubmit. And this is a little different phraseology than it used to say in the old operating system. And so now it allows you to resubmit really as many times as you want. They can keep choosing Doc, Resubmit, and submit as many times as you want. And there may be a situation in your class where you want them to have more than one chance. You want them to learn, and you're not so concerned about grading this particular activity, but maybe it's just a formative assessment, and it's okay if they allow Resubmit. And so one other option there is if you go to Tools, Quick Poll Options, Allow Document Access. If I allow document access, and I'm going to stop that poll and start again. Now when I go to the student, if I hit the scratch pad key, the scratch pad comes up. If I hit the home key and go to my current document, I can actually access my document as well. To go back to the quick poll, if you hit the on key, and then you can see the third choice there is quick poll, the C is quick poll, they can still go back to their quick poll. This allows them to do some calculations and come back and answer the question. So I think students, for the most part, are going to like having this access to their document. However, if you were... Yeah.
I'm sorry. Could you go back to that document for a moment, the domain and range one?
Sure.
So, in the class capture view for one of the students.
Sure.
For parent C. I saw this little, oh yeah, so like up there near the top on the right side,
yeah,
right next to that curly arrow, there's a little poll box there.
Return to quick poll. Oh, isn't that neat?
Yeah, that's cool. Like, so they don't even have to go to the home screen.
That's such a neat little trick there. So the students don't even have to home C. They can just go up to that icon there. So if they go off to their document and then just mouse up to return to quick poll, it gets them right back to the quick poll. Do your students like that better, or do they like home C better?
I think they like that icon.
They like the icon a little better, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a neat trick. And so that was one of our pledges to you, that we would show you some of the neat tricks that are here. And so I think at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to, Ray.
While you're doing that, I just wanted to share something Tricia Garver shared in the chat window. She said she uses that timestamp feature for Math Jeopardy.
Oh.
That's pretty cool.
That's a great idea.
In the old days where you had the buzzers, the cool thing is now Navigator gives you that timestamp, and so that would be a way of knowing who buzzes in first, second, and third, for sure.
So
pretty cool.
Sounds like a pretty engaging class too. To do a Jeopardy thing, I think they would love that. And now we have a way to actually figure out who is the first person to answer.
Yeah, pretty
great idea.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
Before Ray starts going, Michael had a really good question. I wanted to address it. The comment was, I would love to use quick polls to help prep for PSAT, SAT, ACT, and the like. Are there places where people can share quick polls so we can all work together to build up a good library? Ooh,
that's a great question. So, Mike, is there a way I have a whole bunch of PSATs that I could share with you. If you want to give out my email at the end here.
Yeah, we can do that. If you want, you can put your email in the chat window.
Okay, I'll do that. That's a great idea. And then I'll just, anyone who wants to ask for ACT or PSAT, I have some of those already pre-made. I don't know if there's a great spot for those automatically, but I would be happy to provide those for you.
I was thinking that we have that TI-Nspire group website. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of segregated between content areas. Maybe it sounds like you have a lot of resources for the quick polls. Maybe we could create a section that is standardized prep material, kind of a section.
That's a great idea. And if you haven't used TI-Nspire Google Groups, it's just a great way to share information. And so I could also post it there. We could start a little thread, and we could post it there as well.
That'd be great. Sean just mentioned that there is a place for quick polls and quizzes already on that TI-Nspire group website. And if you look in the Q&A window, Sean posted the link to get to that group.
Oh, great.
And while we're still discussing some questions, Kim had a question. She asked if the icon, which I believe is the icon, the quick pull icon, is also available in the scratch pad. So
that's a great question, so I can check that out for you. Yes, it is.
You want me to keep going, and then you'll...
I just double-checked that, and it is available.
Oh, cool. Excellent. So what I want to show you here is one more way of data aggregation. So I've started my own class here with Ann, Bob, and Cindy. They're all logged in. And I created a quick poll question, which is the list question. So here it is. I'm asking students to record the temperature of a 100-milliliter water sample in both Fahrenheit and Celsius for a hot temperature and a cold temperature. So it's up to them. So this is an actual experiment that I have students do in the beginning of the year. And it might seem kind of purposeless, but there really is a neat idea that happens once you get into this activity. So every student has the choice to collect whatever hot and cold temperature data they want to. I've sent this out via quick poll, and so I already have some responses. So let me just kind of do a class capture here and show you some of what's been going on. You'll notice, I think that's a little bigger, that both Bob and Ann have actually submitted some data already, but Cindy hasn't yet. And so I'm going to make Cindy live presenter so you can see what it looks like on the student's handheld. All right, so Cindy did an experiment, and for her cold temperature, she got 53 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty chilly. And a Celsius temperature of 12. And apparently, Cindy's not very good with precision because she's just to the nearest 1 degree. But you know what? That's okay. Not everything is to enter data exactly the same way. All right, so then my handheld's a little hung up here. All right, there we go. And then for her hot temperature, she has a little bit warmer, 66 degrees, and for the Celsius temperature, 19. Now, I want you to notice, wait till it catches up here, that the box where Cindy entered 19 is highlighted, and if I show you my view of the student's data, let's see, that's under the Review tab. You'll see we have some data for hot and cold situations for 1, 2, 3 students, but over here, the 19 degrees Celsius is a dash. And this is a common problem I notice in the science classroom for sure when you ask students to input this information in a list question. Cindy needs to press enter on her handheld, otherwise, there we go. All right, Cindy, thanks so much. So we have to get the data from everybody. Now, this is the most amazing thing ever. Okay, I just want to make sure everybody's in the right frame of mind. I'm sure all of you remember at some point in a science classroom or a math classroom, standing up there near the board, copying down everybody else's data into your notebook so that you could create this graph of everybody's data and learn from everyone else, and how long that actually took. All right, so everyone has been sent this question. It takes them a mere few seconds to enter their data. It comes up here on the teacher computer, and then I'm going to right-click on the screen, and I have a few options. One of them is I could copy the entire table if I wanted to, and I could put that and then paste that into an Excel spreadsheet. That might be nice if you want to collect data from more than one class, and you want to make sure that everybody gets data from maybe all 140 of your students. But the really powerful tool here, I think, is send table to new document. And this is a new feature with the latest version of the software. So I can click there, and automatically all of that data from the students. You know, here we have 3, but really it could be many more. All that data is in a new document, ready to go. We have some labels on the graph. We've got all of that wonderful data. And now I can send this out to the students, and they can analyze this data. So let's actually see what that might look like. I wanted to see why this data was actually submitted by the student. I like to save the actual data before I send it out to the students. So I would save the document here with some kind of title, temp in Fahrenheit and Celsius. And I don't know if we talked about this in a previous session, but another little tip is that when you're in the document window, if you go up here, you can send that out to the class from right there in the document window. Someone taught me that just recently. I really like that idea of just quickly sending all that out. So I'm going to send that out to the class. And if we look at class capture again, which is hidden, let's take a look at that. You'll notice on Cindy's screen right away it says all files have been transferred. And so I'm going to ask Cindy to go ahead and open that up. And there it is. Okay, now let's see. What could we do with this? Well, how about we actually add a data and statistics page. So Cindy is going to, hopefully, there we go, open up a data and statistics page in the same document. And let's see, what could we do? Could we maybe choose, I don't know, temperature in degrees Fahrenheit, and maybe down here on the x-axis, temperature in degrees Celsius. Ooh, hold on, wait for it, there it is. Look at that nice linear relationship. And then, I don't know, maybe we can analyze that relationship using a regression. Let's see, show linear, mx plus b. I'm doing this all, but there's a slight lag on my device. So Cindy is pressing all these buttons very quickly, hopefully momentarily. See, there we go. Voila, the equation. So what's so exciting about this equation? Well, y, that's temperature in degrees Fahrenheit, equals 1.8. Jeff, isn't there some kind of fractional equivalent for 1.8?
That's a great question. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Let's see. Yeah, somehow it reminds me of, I don't know, 9/5 for some reason. I don't know why. So 1.8 is 9/5 times x, which is temperature in degrees Celsius, plus 31.6, close to 32, not bad. So
that's not bad.
It's a really simple activity to get students to construct that relationship between temperature in degrees Fahrenheit and temperature in degrees Celsius. So instead of us just telling students about this equation and having them, do practice problem after practice problem of converting temperatures back and forth, we can actually have them develop this graph and then find some meaning from the graph once it's developed. And it's a lot better when you can do this with a class set of data versus 1 or 2 data points for each student. The errors maybe a little bit spread out a little bit better based on technique. And even if there were some few technique issues, that wouldn't really show up properly in a class graph.
Right?
But, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Trisha had a good question. She said this is all well and good, but what about an empty document for the next class to use?
I'm not sure if I understand. Can you repeat that again?
Yep. She said, okay, but what about an empty document for the next class to use?
You mean how do I send this quick poll out to the next class?
I think that's how I would interpret it, yes.
Okay. Yeah, the great thing about this is a quick poll question. So I click stop poll for this class, and then when we're ready to start the next class, we can use that quick poll question again. That quick poll question is still there. If I look on the bottom, I can click on temp poll. It's still there, ready to go. So it's really simple to use it with multiple classes. Now, if you want that,
Ray, I remember when you had to copy and paste the data that you collected, and then paste it back into another document and then send it to the class. And it seems like, I don't know if you've noticed this, especially with this new 3.2 operating system, that they've tried to make efforts to make our life easier. Because I used to do that old method, and now, I mean, this is just, it's just easier. Right-click on it, and you can just, and it puts it in a new document for you.
Yeah,
so
lightning speed.
It's really gotten handy,
a minute or two before. No, it's great. That's the good thing about TI. They really listen to what teachers say. By the way, I just wanted to add this Fahrenheit to Celsius idea. This is not mine. This is actually on the TI-Nspire website. If you go there, it's in one of the Skills of Science modules. And so it's a really neat experiment, I think, to do in the beginning of the year of a science class to get students to think about relationships. What I'd like to show you next is the portfolio. There are so many really cool things in the portfolio. So I clicked on that tab, and before this webinar started, I had Ann and Bob take a few assessments, and I want to show you some of the neat features here within the portfolio window. For example, if you look here for Element Quiz 2, it looks like some students actually have not taken this. Only Bob is doing. He didn't do very well, by the way. But it looks like Ann and Cindy and Dave have not actually done this assignment. So if we go up here to this little icon and click on that arrow, you'll see we have some choices. And one of them is Send Missing. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on that right now. And I want you to know that both Ann and Cindy, Dave's not logged in right now, but both Ann and Cindy have actually just received that document. And we could, again, take a little peek in to see what that looks like. Let's just look at Ann's screen specifically. And so Ann has received the document. She can go ahead and open it. I'm going to have Ann quickly answer these questions. Let's see, the symbol for mercury, you'll see that in a moment, is Hg. Ann is a really, really good student, by the way. Let's see, the symbol for phosphorus is P. Her last name is Turkey. So Ms. Turkey is really, really good at answering these questions correctly. Ms. Ann Turkey, really good at this stuff. So let's see. Okay, she's answered all of the questions now. And I'm going to stop presenter. Cindy, unfortunately, can't find her Nspire. It's somehow become lost. She's not going to be able to answer this, and I don't quite know that just yet. I'm going to go ahead, hey, everybody done? And they all say, sure, and I don't know what's going on with Cindy. She's not paying attention. So I'm going to collect the missing documents. Uh-oh.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, look at, so Cindy's score came in right away. She got a 0%. Oh, look at that, Ann. Ann got 100%.
Wow.
So what I really like about this is when you have students that are absent during the actual assessment and you've ended the class, the next time you start the class, or 3, 4, 5, 7 class sessions later, you can click on this and send that missing document to anybody who missed it. And so if they're logged in, they have that document. And
you know, that's handy for. That's handy for a couple reasons. One is you don't have to go find and open that document in your Documents tab. You're just opening it up from, that's really interesting the way you can do that. You can just send it from the portfolio.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Organization-wise, it's huge.
Right, it's much faster to do it that way. And I also like this because it puts it in that same column where all these scores are, so you get a better idea of the class average. It is certainly possible if somebody comes to you 1 or 2 days after the assessment and says, I need to take that quiz, you can send that to them individually and collect it back individually, but they'll make a new column just for that one student. And so this is kind of a nice way to actually aggregate all of those scores as well. I think we're still on that aggregation theme.
Nice.
So that's one thing about portfolio, which is kind of handy. There's so many different ideas that I want to show you. Like, for example, you can easily sort. If you click here in the assignment summary box, you'll notice that I'm sorting by alphabetical order, and you can, of course, do this really by last name as well. If you want to show the last name, we can maybe go here, and their last name's not very creative, but you can see that I'm able to sort by name. we can go over here to the mean score column. You might just want to say, hey, who's having some problems in class? If you right-click in the mean score column, you can sort by ascending or descending. And you can very quickly see, oh, wow, Cindy needs some help. And so I'm going to make sure I give Cindy some extra special attention maybe in helping her out. You could go to an assignment itself if you want to. You can click, you can right-click in this area, and you can sort ascending or descending just for that assignment. Let's do that with something that actually has scores, like, oh, fun quiz. So we can right-click there, and I can sort that ascending or descending. So we can see how somebody's doing on an assignment. You'll notice here that for the density of water assignment, we don't have any actual percentages. And that's because this document didn't have any questions in it. But it's still a pretty interesting document. If we click on this arrow, you'll notice we can open the master document to see what that document is all about. It automatically finds within my computer that document. And in this document, students were given a table of mass and volume values. And then on page 1.2, their assignment was to figure out what the slope of that relationship is between mass and volume. And so here's the master document that students got, the blank one. But if we go back to portfolio, we actually can look specifically at what students did. Like, for example, if I right-click on this icon for Bob, I can actually open his document for editing. So I can actually see what Bob entered. This, of course, is the same for all the students. You'll notice up here it says 224 Bob, his first and last name, and then the name of the assignment. So if we click on page 1.2, we see that Bob actually did something. He put volume on the y-axis and mass on the x-axis. Well, that wasn't really quite the assignment because to find density, we need mass versus volume. But okay, at least Bob selected some variables for those axes. Let's see what Ann Fairkey did. Let's see, so I'm going to right-click there, open that for editing. Okay, page 2. Oh, look at that. And, of course, graphed it correctly, and she found the equation for the line. And so, yeah, for sure, I think she needs to get full credit. That was the assignment. So I'm going to go back here to portfolio, and you can actually double-click in that box, and you can assign a score. So I'm going to put in the percentage 100. She did just what I asked. And Bob, not so bad for Bob. So let's go ahead and maybe give him an 80%. So he at least gets some credit for putting in the variables there. And I'll see, what did Cindy do? Oops, let's see. I'm going to right-click on Cindy. I'm not even sure if Cindy is this assignment, but let's find out. Let's see. There's the data. Oh, yeah, Cindy. Again, poor little Cindy. I don't know what's going on with her, but she did pretty well. I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to because she just hasn't finished that assignment. So, so she gets 0%. So you can actually edit the scores, and that goes for these other ones where there actually are scores already. You know, if I decide 33% is not the right grade for Bob for that quiz, I can actually change it.
Hey, Ray.
Another thing I want to, yeah.
Julie had a question before you got too much further.
Yeah, I'm going pretty fast. Thanks for slowing me down.
Yep, no problem. She asked if you can have different versions of an assessment that is aggregated under the same column. She said, so if I give an assessment on Tuesday, and I want to give a different version on Wednesday, but it's really the same concept, but she wants to use different versions. Would she be able to do that?
I don't think so. From my experience, I have given different versions, but they pop up in separate columns. If the document's different, the master document's different somehow, there's going to be a separate field. You can use similar names, and you know that would be, I think, a suggestion to go, a way to go at least. I think there's a way of actually dragging these columns around by right-clicking and ordering them the way you want to order them too. So, unfortunately, at this point, that's not there for us. It's not ready yet. Let's go in the review workspace. Let's look at element quiz number 2. This is another thing that we can do. We can open up this these answers from the students in the review workspace, and we can see how students did. So let's see the symbol for Mercury. We can look at the data, Yes, HG is the correct symbol, and, oh, of course, Ann got that. Oh, and Bob said gold, really. It's the symbol for gold for mercury, so no. Let's see, phosphorus. Oh, both students chose phosphorus for that one. That's good. Magnesium, Mg, they both chose that. Great. Tungsten, all right. That's great. I think I opened the wrong one. Let's try this. We're going to look at Element Quiz 1. There we go. Yeah, I opened the wrong document. I want to show you kind of a really cool feature. All right, so we're here in another quiz, Element Quiz 1. And we're on question number 3. What's the symbol for tin? Of course, everybody knows the symbol for tin is TN. Wait, no, it's not TN. Oh, no. I've marked that as the correct answer. What are we going to do? Well, let's see. Who got credit for that? Oh, Bob. Oh, sorry, Bob. And, oh my God. Ann actually chose the correct answer. And if we were to look in the portfolio, let's see, this is Element Quiz 1. Element Quiz 1. Ann got 67%. That's not going to sit well with Ann. Well, here's the great thing. In the review space, we can make a change. You know, teachers, we're human. We make mistakes. I can right-click on this bar, and I can make this the correct response, which we've seen before. You can choose different answers as the correct response. But what I want you to see is that in the portfolio window, the scores for Element Quiz 1 have changed. Ann now has her perfect 100%, and poor Bob is back to 0% with that assignment.
What if you didn't want Bob to have a? What if you didn't want Bob to have a 0%? You just felt bad. Maybe 50% might be the lowest score you give out on that assessment. Can you change that?
There you go. Yeah, that's it. Right. You could double-click right there on the score and change it. Another thing you could do if you wanted to, I'll make this 0% again, is we can click over here on the left. I haven't shown this yet. We can click on the name of the assignment, and we actually will see how every student did on every question. There's also a column where we can add some points in if we want to. So we could do it that way as well. We could say, all right, Bob, nobody's getting less than maybe, that's too many points. Nobody's getting less than, I don't know, let's just put 2 in there. That's 67%. So that'll be his adjusted score. Something else that we can do in this window, which is kind of fun, is we could click, specifically double-click. Let's see if we can get this going here. There we go. Got to click on the actual question. So I could click here for Ann, and just a single click will do, and we'll see that question that Ann answered. Let's see which element symbol represented potassium. Ann answered K. That was the correct answer. Here are all the choices. We could click on the next one for Bob and see, oh, Bob did not get that one right, and here's what Bob actually answered, as well as the correct response. So this is kind of nice if you want to see more specifically where your students are having some issues. And I don't know if I would show them this live, one-on-one, because they might see other student scores as well. But at the minimum, you at least can pinpoint what some of their problem areas are before you have that conference with them.
Hey, Ray,
so that's kind of, yeah.
Tricia asked a question. Can you make different point values for different questions?
Excellent. Yeah, I was going to do that with a different assignment, but let's go ahead and do it with this one. You can go up here to total points possible. You can double click, and let's say I want that first question to be 2 points instead of 1 point. And automatically you have a dialog box that asks you to make a decision. You can leave the assigned credit for the question intact, or you can actually reassess the question for each student. And I'm going to go ahead and choose that option. That one's more fun. Notice we've got scores of 1 and 0, and if I click OK for reassess, now Ann has 2 and Bob has 0. At this point, if I wanted to, if I felt Bob was close, I could go in here and instead of 0, I could maybe say, all right, now that the question is worth 2 points, I'll go ahead and assign 1 point for you for that, for at least attempting an answer or getting an answer that's close. So yeah, you can very easily change point values and it adjusts the score accordingly. So that's kind of neat. One last thing I want to show you is that you can actually export all of this information into an Excel spreadsheet. So if we go up here to File, we can export data, and there's a couple of ways to do this. We can export what we're looking at right now, which I want to quickly show you for this assignment. So element quiz 1. And let me, on my desktop, quickly find that document that I just created and open that with Excel to show you what that looks like. So we actually have here all of that same information, and now I can edit it if I want to, or I can maybe copy and paste and put that into a gradebook program. And so that's kind of a nice feature. And then also, if we wanted to, we could click on assignment summary, and then we get that overall view of each assignment. At this point, if I do file and export data, if I export this current view, it'll just give the percentages for everything. Also, we have the option of doing a custom export, and I could say, well, I just want to know how they did in the element quizzes, for example. And I can export, and I'll just see the percentages for that alone. There was a good question here. Can we disregard a question? I don't know if we can disregard a question within the portfolio. That was a feature that was there in the past. I think in this version, what you're going to need to do if you want to disregard a question is actually get that data in the spreadsheet and disregard it in the spreadsheet. I know that that's not maybe ideal.
Or could you make the total points possible 0? Would that do it too for that question?
Oh, that question. Oh, that's a really, hey, tip number 383. Excellent. I like that idea. Yeah, just go create a possible points and say, all right, that's going to be 0 points. And then should we reassess? Oh, look at that. Yeah, so Ann doesn't get credit for that. Now, we would have to note that, well, no, excellent. That's it. There you go. That's a really simple way to disregard. I've never thought of that before. I always thought, oh, that just went away. No, what do we do? Yeah, it's as simple as that. Very cool. One last thing. I like to give objective and subjective questions for my exams. And so I'll do something like this. I'll have a paper copy of an exam. So you'll notice here, this was my first semester final, some of the first few questions for math or chemistry class. You'll notice in these multiple choice questions, there's different amounts of answers right here. We have A, B, C, A through E, A through D. So they have this paper copy, and I'll ask them to put their answers on the paper copy, but also in an Nspire file. And I want to quickly show you that. You'll notice here this is version A. I have 4 students sitting to a table. And so if I gave everybody the same exact version, there might be a few people not like Ann Turkey, of course, but a few people might look around and see what's going on in the other tests. And so I'll actually send out multiple versions of a document. So the first thing I want to show you is it's very simple to send out a blank document for tests. And so that would look like, let's say here. So I create this real simple multiple choice form, A through E for question 1, for question 2, question 3, and so forth. And if I want to, I can customize it like you see here on the.
How do you add more or less questions there? Is it
more
easy?
Questions? Oh, yeah, it's real simple.
I mean like A, B, C, D, E. What if you wanted to add an E right there? What would you do?
I add E right now. All I do is just click Enter and type an E, and there it is, ready to go.
What if you want to get rid of E?
Oh, I just hit backspace twice and it's gone.
Very good.
Yeah, real fast. We can, if we want to add more questions, I do want you to know with this technique, there's only a limit of 50 questions per problem. So if you get to number 50 and you're afraid, you can add more questions. Just add another problem. So it's 50 actual pages per problem. So, no one's going to give us best with like 1,000 questions. And so if you run out of questions after 50, you just add another problem and keep going. And when I send this out to students, I've got them grouped right now by the way they fit. If I wanted to, I could say, you know what, Ann is going to take version A, and so is Cindy. And Bob and Dave, they're going to take version B. And so when I'm ready to actually send that document out, I can select those 2 students who are going to get version A. I could send them version A. And so let's see if I just quickly, it's hiding here, there we go. I could send them version A. And you'll notice it highlights just those students who I'm going to send that to. And we'll see they got version A, and then I can do that again, certainly version B. Not only can you use this for different versions of a test, you might also use this for differentiating instruction. you might have different files with different difficulties, and you could send this, of course, out to students that way. That's kind of a neat idea. The one thing I guess I want to caution everybody about, if you try this, it's really, really important to send these versions out separately and also to kind of collect these versions separately. I would suggest waiting until everything comes in for version A before you actually start collecting version B. I initially didn't wait, and I noticed data kind of got mixed up together, and then questions were not really reliable. But it is a really nice technique of actually differentiating based on either ability or just seat location, kind of a neat way to send things out.
And now you don't have to wait in the Scantron line at the end of the semester to get all your finals graded too.
Exactly, right. And you're saving trees, you know, you're helping out the environment. It's always nice.